Welcome back to Riding Bikes in San Diego. We are at Park. We just came over here from C Street, where the bike lane went from a two-way to a one-way. You could see that in the video I posted just yesterday. But we are over at City College now. This is where Park Boulevard is a two-way. If we kept going south behind us, it would become a one-way. So I'm going to show you the entire length of Park today, and I am going to stop at every single stop sign and red light. You thought that was a red light, but there was another bike light there that specifically gave me the green. So that's what we're doing today. It's a bit of a long one, so I'll put some markers in the bottom for specific areas, but I want to show you the infrastructure because some of this is new to us, new to the channel, and we haven't seen it before. I could take this red light. I'm not. I don't know what it would hurt if I did go, but I sit there for the red and I wait for the green. Here's the thing. By waiting, even though there was no risk in me going through it, this car coming up behind me, this driver, they want to make that right, and now they have to wait for me. They could have decided to speed past me, and I'm glad they didn't. But, just a reminder that red lights and stop signs, they're designed for cars, which is not to say that people on bikes shouldn't follow them sometimes. But I'm thinking about safety. I'm thinking about these children off to the side here and how to make these roads safe for everyone. Again, we're going by City College, and now we're actually going by San Diego High School, and we're on a bit of an incline. It's a wonder to me that this is not a better designed road, considering that children could access it from where they live. And we are heading from the downtown area into uptown. A lot of people live up there. A lot of kids live up there and go to school down here. Not just kids, people also. Like I said, City College was right there. It has a pretty high enrollment. A lot of people go there. It's a good school. I know some of the folks who work there. This bike lane's weird. I don't know if you saw those cars back there that were encroaching into the bike lane because the geometry isn't quite working, but it's a narrow space. Luckily right here, things get better. And this is new. This is fairly recently painted and put in. We got the dedicated bus lane over to our left. I'm just speeding it up to get us there a little faster. And I'm going to stop at this light. I can't help but notice that even on fresh design, the bike lane becomes a shared space between a person on a bicycle and a person who wants to make a right turn. That does not seem like an effective way to actually keep people safe, but this is the best we could do. This stretch of road here was under consideration for a while, a few different designs. Ultimately, they acquiesced, and on the other side of the road, there is not a dedicated bus line because some places in the park insisted on more parking. Even though the parking lot to the right is never full, that was not good enough. You can't ask people to cross a street to access the park, apparently. It's really disappointing, it's really disheartening, and it creates a less safe environment for pedestrians, for people on bikes, and also just for drivers and for the bus. The bus does not currently run on some of the busiest days of the year, some of the busiest holidays, because of that inconsistent bus lane. So thank you very much, some of the cultural centers in Balboa Park, which really just seem like, NIMBY strongholds, and hopefully those get changed more effectively now that we can observe the damage that is done by those decisions. I feel like I should have sped it up a little bit here, but the reason I didn't is because I'm trying to just show some of the inconsistencies. But you know what? We could do this a little faster. We have to battle through some of the curb cuts and some other interruptions in the bike lane, and that's all right. Like I said, this is a Monday morning, I think, or a Sunday morning. What day was the 8th? Monday morning. and it's pretty quiet. Pretty quiet. We'll shave off a little bit here, and just kudos to whoever placed this sign in the buffer rather than actually putting it in the bike lane, because often signs like that are just placed in the bike lane. I want to observe over here that the bus lane, dedicated bus lane, ends. The bus is directed to merge into regular traffic, and we still have our bike lane, and we have a wider buffer now. But in just a few feet here, all of this buffer is going to give way to parking, street parking. And I understand people feel like they need to drive to the park. This is Balboa Park. If you've never been to San Diego, they call it the Jewel of San Diego. It's a wonderful park. It's a great place. The zoo is located right next to it, but there are a bunch of museums, historical sites, recreation areas. There are some shows at the Organ Pavilion I think my family and I are going to go to tonight. It's a wonderful place, and people need access to it. But I think that we need access that doesn't rely on people driving cars. This bike lane is pretty consistent once the bus starts up on the side again, and we roll along. This is all slightly uphill too, but I was actually picking up my kid from camp on the other side of the park the other day, and saw a bike dad, said hey to him. I was like, oh, nice bike, good to see you. And he says, well, I had to get this because they made it so difficult to park around the park. And I was like, all right, well, glad to see design is changing some behavior. He didn't seem bitter about it. He had a little speaker, was playing some music, and was comfortable enough riding without a helmet, which I also thought was bold. I don't know exactly where he was riding to, but I live far enough away from here, and and I need to wear this camera, so I got my helmet on just about all the time. We're gonna wait at this light for a second here, and we're gonna head from this area, which we've passed the zoo on the left, and right now we're passing Roosevelt Middle School. Again, children use this corridor, or could use it all the time, but it's not consistent. It's pretty good through the park, but we're about to get into the uptown area, and it is not consistent. As you can see right here, the bike lane ends, and we get this arrow. Everybody gets this arrow. We now get a sharrow for a second, but then the bike lane picks up. And all of this is there because those folks who live around here have a little bit of street parking. All these places that we're passing also have dedicated parking, so make no mistake about that. But here we go. We're just going to sit here. The white line has totally worn away between the bike line and where people are parking their cars. So that loss of the line, is a loss of delineation, and it leaves people to kind of judge things on their own. So maybe one day they'll get around to painting that again. I hope that they get around to painting it again when they refresh this, because for some reason, I don't think the geometry changes. I don't think the width of this road changes, but for some reason we cross the street here and the bike lane goes away, and now we're left with 2 lanes and one with a sharrow. I just don't understand why this change happens. Nothing about this block seems especially unique or different from the previous block to necessitate such a shift in design and the loss of the bike lane. But I feel like they know that. Somebody in the comments the other day pointed out that the city knows when they put down sharrows that they're making substandard infrastructure. They're fully aware that that it's nonsense. But hey, we get a bike lane here, and one might think, oh, good, we're safe now. We're going to be in a bike lane moving forward, but it breaks down 3/4 of the block later, just goes away, and I don't know why it goes away. Again, the geometry doesn't change, but for some reason it goes away, and then we end up in this sharrow. City truck is coming up on our left, and now we're in a turning lane. I want to go straight. I don't want to cause conflict and get in the way of other drivers, so I'm just going to get in this nice bike box here. even though this city worker is in my bike box also. Light turns green. We get to go, and now we get some bike lane again. It's just paint. Of course, it's just paint because this is not just a bike lane, it's also a bus stop. We're sharing this space by design. And then we get into this area where the drivers are pulling in head first into all the parking, and luckily all these cars fit, well, except for this van. They're kind of in there a little bit. That's going to happen, right? I actually went to a car museum up in the Escondido area the other day, and there was this Cadillac that, I mean, thing was like 30 feet long. It was so wild. But I was like, man, where would you park that today? Definitely not on Park Boulevard. We cross over Lincoln here, and we end up on yet a different design for the bike lane. This one's buffered, even though a lot of drivers can't seem to follow that line behind them. And I wonder how many of these drivers actually have cameras behind their car to help judge this. But sometimes people go over the line. You'll see this in videos coming up also. I've been riding on Park Boulevard a whole bunch lately for various reasons. But some people just can't handle it. That they gotta be right here. You know, just a minute. Just a minute. At least they're not all the way in the bike lane. They're just a little in the bike lane. But you know, in San Diego, if you put your hazard lights on, that makes everything okay. That's what I hear from the drivers in the bike lane anyway. Another design here. This, I think, is going to come up for a real redesign because they put out this giant bump out because the building to the right was under construction for like the last 2 years, but people are living in it now. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle all that space. There's a lot of really good space there. Unfortunately, you know, it has to deal with being part of this hodgepodge of design. I've been reading this book lately by Melissa and Chris Bruntlett called Building the Cycling City, the Dutch Blueprint for Urban Vitality. And a lot of that book talks about cities in the Netherlands and how they have a city center. One of the problems with San Diego is that we don't have a city center. We have downtown, and then we have all these neighborhoods, and every neighborhood feels like it could have some kind of city center. I went in here on a yellow light, and that yellow was not long enough for somebody on a bike to get through there. We're back on this stretch, and you'll see this again in a few days because even though they made some improvements to it, some drivers don't like it and just park in it anyway. Like a bunch of goofballs. So, and we are going to stop at this red light because on this video, we're stopping at all the red lights, folks. And stop signs. But there are no more stop signs between here and where we're going, except for at the very end. But we're going to stop. That book, Building the Cycling City, a friend of mine lent it to me, and it does get me thinking about our urban design. San Diego, California, America are really built on sprawl. There are city centers, and then there is the surrounding area. But it's been designed with the car in mind, thinking that, hey, people can just drive. So we don't have, you know, vital urban cores the way we once did. It starts to make me wonder what we could do to create the city centers. Let's stop here. Even though that car's turning, I could have judged that situation much faster and gone. But you know, I'm listening to the criticism. I'm listening to people who are saying I better stop or else I'm part of the problem. But going along here, this is a little tight. They put this bike lane in a couple of years ago, and it feels okay, but it's a little tight. And these trees tend to drop a bunch of stuff in the bike lane. Not right now, in June or July that we're in, but you get into the autumn months, and those trees drop a whole bunch of things that we have to start navigating around, or just avoid completely by being in the main lane. And we're getting towards Adams Avenue, and we're getting towards the end of the video, but this is the current state of Park Boulevard. Like I said, it's kind of a hodgepodge. It's a patchwork quilt of different designs. There's no other place for this mail truck to be. The U.S. Postal Service can park wherever the hell they want, and there's room for us to go around, so we will. Thanks for coming along on Park Boulevard with me. From here, we are going to make a complete stop at this stop sign, as that car did, because there are pedestrians there. And we are going to drive left and ride a bike. Thanks so much.